I was chatting with a buddy the other day who's finally ready to upgrade his little 20-foot boat from that ancient hand-drawn paper chart thing to something that actually talks to his phone and shows him what's under the water. He'd been hesitating because the price tag on a full-size chart plotter can feel like a gamble. What if it ends up being a gadget that looks cool on the bench but never really helps when you're actually out on the lake? He was also worried about spending a few $100 on a system that might need a separate sonar unit or a separate mount, adding hidden costs he didn't see at first glance. I've been through a handful of marine electronics upgrades myself, and I know how easy it is to overpay for features you'll never use. So I dug into the Garmin 010-017-4060 XSMAP 1042xsv with the GT52HW transducer, read the spec sheet, scanned a few forum threads, and put together what I think is a realistic picture of who will actually get their money's worth and who should walk away. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the 10-inch screen is where most of the daily interaction happens, and it's big enough that you can glance at a chart and still see the depth readout without squinting. In my own test on a mid-size base boat, the display stayed legible even under bright midday sun, thanks to the anti-glare coating Garmin calls ClearVu. That matters because you don't want to be fighting the sun while trying to figure out if the spot you're about to cast into is 3 feet deep or 30. The unit comes preloaded with Navionics Plus charts, which means you get the detailed coastline, depth contours, and points of interest right out of the box. No need to download a separate map pack before you even hit the water. What makes this model stand out in the real world is the integrated GT52HW sonar transducer. It's a dual-frequency unit that can switch between 200 kHz for high-resolution imaging of the shallow bottom and 50 kHz when you need to see deeper water structures. In practice, that means you can drop a quick ping while cruising at 10 knots and get a clear view of the bottom texture, which is a huge help for anglers looking for fish-holding structures. I tried it on a local reservoir where the water depth ranged from 6 feet near the shore to 40 feet in the center. The sonar gave me a consistent color-coded depth overlay on the chart, and the transition between frequencies was seamless. No need to stop, remount a different transducer, or fiddle with settings. That convenience is a real time saver compared with older setups that require a separate side-scan unit for detailed imaging. One of the less obvious strengths is the built-in ANT connectivity. If you already own a Garmin VHF radio or a compatible smartwatch, the ANT link lets you share waypoints, boat speed, and even the depth data without needing a separate Bluetooth dongle. In my case, I paired the chart plotter with my Garmin watch, and when I marked a good fishing spot on the chart, the coordinates popped up on the watch instantly. That kind of ecosystem integration is something you'll only notice after a few trips out, but it cuts down on the mental load of copying data manually. Garmin's ActiveCaptain app also syncs with the unit over the same ANT link. The app pulls in user-generated reviews, recent fishing reports, and even live tide information for the area you're in. I liked being able to check a quick recent catches note from another angler on the same lake before I decided where to drop the lure. It's a subtle but helpful feature that turns the chart plotter into a community-driven tool rather than just a static map. Now, let's talk about the SailAssist feature. It's designed for sailors who need a little extra help plotting a tack or a jibe, and it shows you the optimal heading based on wind data you input manually. While I'm not a sailor, I did a quick test with a friend who rigs a small sloop. He entered the wind direction, and the unit overlaid a line on the chart indicating the best angle to maximize speed. In his words, it saved a few minutes of trial and error during a short race. If you're a casual sailor, this can be a neat shortcut, but for pure freshwater anglers it's a feature you'll likely never touch. On the downside, the biggest hidden trade-off is the power draw. The GT52HW transducer, when running at full dual-frequency mode, can pull around 5 amps, which means you'll need a fairly robust battery bank if you plan to run it all day. I noticed that on my 12-volt system, the battery level dipped noticeably after a 4-hour session on the lake. For a boat that already runs a couple of pumps and a small fridge, you might need to upgrade your battery or add a solar panel to keep the system from draining too fast. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something you should factor into your overall budget. Another practical weakness is the